Now at 5 and streaming on crossroadstoday.com, a bold theft at a Kubota dealership sparks a 6-hour manhunt, but the suspects remain on the run. Plus, a new position at the Victoria County Sheriff's Office aims to streamline health care services. How this change could impact the department. Plus, a line of powerful storms that devastated the central U.S. has now reached the East Coast, leaving destruction and wildfires in its wake across Texas.
Well, for us, that storm brought all the wind, and the wind is going to be with us for the next few days. Now, it's a beautiful sunny day, but the wind is going to be coming up out of the south for the next couple of days, and so we still are in some sort of fire danger. We'll talk more about it coming up in just a few minutes.
And a sudden loss for Texas as former Houston Mayor and Congressman Sylvester Turner dies at 70. You're watching 25 News Now at 5. Good afternoon and thanks for being with us. I'm Shawna Currie. A bold theft at a Kubota dealership in Hallettsville led to an intense manhunt, but the suspects are still on the run. Thieves cut through a fence at the Kubota tractor dealership off Highway 77, stealing 2 zero-turn mowers and stashing them nearby brush line. But when they returned Sunday night to retrieve their loot, deputies had already replaced the mowers with a decoy and set up game cameras. Realizing that they had been outsmarted, the suspects took off on foot. Law enforcement launched a 6-hour manhunt using drones, hound dogs, horses, even calling in a DPS helicopter, though bad weather forced it to turn back. If you saw anything suspicious near the Kubota dealership or County Road 165, contact the Lavaca County Sheriff's Office. You can remain anonymous. Sheriff Justin Marr is bringing in a physician assistant to the Victoria County Sheriff's Office. Commissioner's Court approved the position on Monday. The new position will consolidate the current PA role, which is contracted, with the RN supervisor position, which has been vacant. The position will pay around $125,000, which is similar to what is currently budgeted for the 2 roles that will be consolidated. So this brings us to our viewer poll today. Do you support adding a full-time physician assistant to the sheriff's office? We want to hear from you. Visit crossroadstoday.com/vote to take part. And right now, 56% of voters say they do not support adding this full-time position to the sheriff's office. But continue voting, and we will have the latest numbers on 25 News Now at 6. Well, now let's go outside and take a look at our weather. Definitely much calmer out there today than we saw yesterday. But Mac, I keep hearing the Joe Nichols song, Sunny and 75 in my head for some reason.
Well, that's the good side of the forecast, the sunny and 75. The bad side is that we're really dry and the winds are going to be elevated, not completely quiet. In fact, what's happening today is we're turning it around. We had that big, strong north wind that came in. Well, today is sort of the turnaround day because by tomorrow it comes up fairly strong coming up out of the south. So windy and dry conditions, and let's just all be very careful with anything that looks like flame. You saw what happened yesterday with the high winds. We'll keep our fingers crossed as we head on into the weekend. We'll have more details coming up in just a few minutes. Back to you, Shawna.
A near-record storm, March storm, reached the East Coast early this morning, delivering deadly thunderstorms and fueling fast-spreading wildfires in the central and southern U.S. Around 100 million people today were under threat of wind gusts that could top 55 miles an hour from Virginia and the Carolinas down to Texas. There have been 3 storm-related deaths reported so far, all of them in Mississippi. Laura Aguirre is in Charlotte, North Carolina, where the storms, while potentially destructive, could also be a benefit.
The same line of destructive storms that wreaked havoc in the central and Gulf regions Tuesday reached the eastern seaboard this morning, and with it, damaging winds and severe thunderstorm and tornado warnings across parts of Georgia, the Carolinas, and Virginia. The rain potentially giving an edge to fire teams in North Carolina, where dozens of wildfires continue to burn across the state. In Mississippi, the storms damaged a number of homes and businesses, leveled trees, and caused widespread power outages. The roof of the Clay County Courthouse captured on camera being effortlessly peeled away by yesterday's powerful winds. Around a half dozen EF1 tornadoes were reported in towns across Louisiana, Oklahoma, and Texas, where a different natural threat was already in motion.
The fire is getting bigger and bigger.
Several damaging fires across the Lone Star State Tuesday are still burning today, fueled by lingering high winds.
Sinton is on fire.
They evacuated us because it got real black and
Like 3 houses caught on fire there where we live at.
This Sinton area resident's home was spared by the Welder Complex fire located about 30 minutes northwest of Corpus Christi. It's one of several blazes being monitored by Texas A&M Forest Service across the state's central and eastern regions. Forecasters are tracking the system of rain and high winds as it moves up into the northeast overnight and into Thursday morning. In Charlotte, North Carolina, I'm Laura Aguirre reporting.
The windy conditions also caused widespread power problems. As of this afternoon, 8 states in the central, south, and mid-Atlantic regions were reporting between 10 and 30,000 outages. And in Texas, over 72,000 outages, down from more than 100,000 yesterday. That's all according to poweroutage.us. The Senate's Finance Committee advanced Senate Bill 260, which would increase the amount of funding school districts would get for school safety upgrades. It now goes to a vote in the full legislature. To read this full Texas Tribune article, visit our website, crossroadstoday.com. A temporary road closure is coming as crews work on the State Highway 35 overpass project. On Tuesday, State Highway 172 will be closed from State Highway 35 to FM 2143 while crews place bridge beams. If you're heading north from Olivia, you will detour onto FM 2143, then State Highway 35, and drivers coming south from LaWard will be rerouted onto State Highway 35 as well. Flaggers and pilot vehicles will help guide traffic through the area. You can expect possible delays and use caution in the work zone. A battle over where to store the nation's used nuclear fuel is brewing on Capitol Hill. Today, the Supreme Court heard arguments between the state of Texas and the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. The case involves a fight against the NRC's decision to allow private parties to store nuclear waste at Texas's Permian Basin. The justices are questioning whether Texas and the private plaintiffs may seek intervention from federal courts and whether the federal agency has the power to contract storage away from reactor sites. The Supreme Court is expected to make a decision by the end of June. Texas is mourning the death of Democratic Congressman and former Houston Mayor Sylvester Turner. Turner served 8 years as the mayor of Houston and 27 years in the Texas House. His death came as a shock to fellow congressional Democrats who were with him Tuesday night for President Trump's speech. The cause of Turner's death was not immediately clear. Houston's current mayor, John Whitmore, says Turner was a remarkable public servant who impacted millions of people. Turner was 70 years old. And a 13-year-old boy with a love for law enforcement receives an incredible honor during President Trump's address to Congress. DJ Daniel has always dreamed of becoming a police officer. In 2018, he was diagnosed with terminal brain and spine cancer, but that has not stopped him from making an impact. Over the years, DJ has been sworn in as an honorary officer at hundreds of police departments, including right here in the Victoria Police Department. He was sworn in as an honorary officer back in 2022. And Tuesday night, he got the surprise of a lifetime during President Trump's address to Congress. Trump announced DJ would be named an honorary Secret Service agent. You could see the pure shock in his face as Secret Service Director Sean Currie presented him with an honorary badge. A special moment for a young boy whose bravery and love for law enforcement continue to inspire. Well, here are some of the top headlines you can read in the Port Lavaca Wave. A Rattling Bones tournament at Sharky's Bar and Grill in Port O'Connor raises money for the Calhoun County Humane Society. And the Calhoun County Quilt Guild's show at the Bauer Community Center showcased quilts, vintage craftsmanship, and a new generation of quilters. You can read these stories and more at portlavacawave.com. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Crossroads Today. Hit the like button and click the notification bell. Stay with us. Straight ahead on 25 News Now at 5. Trump's 100-minute address stirs up deep divisions in Congress. Plus, recently fired Agriculture Department employees are heading back to work. But for how long? The U.S. Supreme Court has rejected the Trump administration's efforts to block foreign aid spending. The justices ruled 5-4 the administration must unfreeze about $57 billion approved by Congress to USAID. Nonprofit groups which receive some of the funds say the lives of millions of people around the world are at stake. The White House says it is trying to manage spending. The ruling does not say when the funds must be released, and because of that, the matter is expected to continue to play out in lower courts. For the first time since his return to the White House, President Trump addressed a joint session of Congress. It was the longest address to Congress in history. ABC's Nicole D'Antonio is in Washington breaking down the key moments.
It was the longest speech to Congress in history.
America is back.
100 minutes, and some are saying the most polarizing too.
The people elected me to do the job, and I'm doing it.
Trump was greeted by rousing cheers from Republicans and raucous cheers from Democrats. But Democratic lawmakers repeatedly interrupting, claiming many of his remarks were false. Just 4 minutes in, Texas Democrat Al Green heckling the president, shaking his cane at him.
Members are directed to uphold and maintain decorum in the House.
It's the first time that's ever happened. The president taunted his opponents, highlighting his policies with many false allegations and claims, at the same time saying this.
I look at the Democrats in front of me, and I realize there is absolutely nothing I can say to make them happy or to make them stand or smile or applaud. Nothing I can do.
On GMA this morning, House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries.
So that was one of the most partisan and divisive speeches ever delivered by an American president.
The president spent little time talking about the economy the same day he imposed sweeping 25% tariffs on Canada and Mexico.
There'll be a little disturbance, but we're okay with that. It won't be much.
Michigan Senator Alyssa Slotkin gave the Democratic response, saying the president has no credible strategy to fight inflation.
So, do his plans actually help Americans get ahead? Not even close. President Trump is trying to deliver an unprecedented giveaway to his billionaire friends.
The president also zeroed in on the war between Russia and Ukraine, reciting a letter he received from Ukrainian President Zelensky to start peace negotiations after that heated meeting in the Oval Office last week. Nicole D'Antonio, ABC News, Washington.
Thousands of recently fired Department of Agriculture employees will be heading back to work, at least for a while. The probationary workers were let go as part of the Trump administration's goal to decrease the federal civil service sector. But today, the Merit Systems Protection Board issued an order that will reinstate the staffers. A special counsel who reviewed employee claims said the layoffs appear to be illegal, and the Protection Board agreed. As a result of the order, the employees are able to return to work immediately for at least a month and a half. The board will now look closer at the legal questions surrounding the mass layoffs. The Agriculture Department will have to prove to the board it complied with the reinstating process. More than 2 million new cancer cases are expected this year alone in the U.S. That's according to projections from the American Cancer Society. But cancer death rates are declining, thanks in part to the earlier detection of some cancers. A new study published today, though, finds rates of cervical cancer screenings remain low across the U.S. In today's Health Minute, Mandy Gaither talks to the senior author about this troubling trend.
First, the good news. Newly released research shows screenings for both colorectal and breast cancers have rebounded from declines during the COVID-19 pandemic. But researchers say that's not been the case for another cancer.
And unfortunately, we didn't see that for cervical cancer screening, that they are still below pre-pandemic level.
Study senior author Preeti Bondi and her team found past year cervical cancer screening in 2023 remained at 14%, which is below pre-pandemic levels.
We want to detect cancers early when they're more treatable.
And that's why researchers say it's a troubling trend, one that's viewed as a long-term problem as cervical cancer screening started to decline in the early 2000s. It still isn't fully clear why these specific screenings haven't bounced back like others post-pandemic.
Some of the research points to reducing knowledge among women about the need for cervical cancer screening and fewer recommendations to be screened by physicians.
Cervical cancer screening recommendations vary based on age and health, but the U.S. Preventive Services Task Force says if your age is 21 to 29, get your first Pap test at 21 and every 3 years after. If your age is 30 to 65, there are options. Get tested for human papillomavirus, which can cause cervical cancer, every 5 years, or an HPV Pap co-test every 5 years, or a Pap test every 3 years. For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
Cervical screening recommendations are developed by several organizations. Updated cervical cancer screening guidelines from the American Cancer Society recommend starting screening at age 25 with an HPV test and having HPV testing every 5 years through age 65. However, the organization says testing with an HPV Pap co-test every 5 years or with a Pap test every 3 years is still acceptable. Wild Coast Raw is recalling cat food over possible bird flu contamination. It's recalling some 16-ounce and 24-ounce frozen, boneless, free-range chicken formula raw pet food for cats. It was sold in Washington and Oregon. The company issued a similar recall last month after 2 cats got severe cases of bird flu and died. If you have come into contact with the product, wash your hands thoroughly and sanitize all contact surfaces. Here's a look at some of the top headlines you can read in the Cuero Record. Cuero ISD pushes back on school vouchers, and a Yorktown senior is crowned Miss San Antonio Teen USA. To read more, visit DeWittCountyToday.com.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. We're looking at 72 degrees, lovely sunshine. You can't deny that. The winds have settled down. They're down to 13 to 15 miles an hour. Problem is they're coming back tomorrow from the south, and they'll be, up to the windy range again. 72 was our high. 52 was a low last night. Obviously no rain. We are so arid dry. I wish I could tell you that in the next 7 days there's some kind of rain coming, but I can't. So we'll talk about the dry weather forecast coming up in a moment. Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm sure you probably had dust on your car this morning from yesterday, all that dust sort of settling out. The good news is the dust is already blown out to sea, and we're looking, of course, at very nice sunny weather in the next couple of days. So outdoors is going to be really nice. Thing is, by tomorrow, the south wind kicks in again, coming in from the south. Let me show you what we expect. This is tonight. You can see gently coming out of the southeast, about 10 to 15. But as we get into tomorrow, they'll start picking up into the 25-mile-an-hour range as we really start getting ready for the next storm coming at us from the west coast. So because we continue on the dry conditions, we should all be cautious. Now, we don't have any red flag warnings for us. However, we're in an elevated fire danger with the dry winds, the dry air, the very strong winds, and of course the low humidities that the wildlife has not vegetated, has not grown into the green stuff just yet. We're looking at red flag warnings to continue through much of West Texas and portions of New Mexico as well. But we are getting ready, seriously, for the next storm. Here's the one that came through. It blew the roofs off of houses in Dallas. It's now rolling up here as a highly strong windstorm. It's got all that rain that's now pushing off the east coast. So high pressure is in charge, and as it rolls eastward, it's going to strengthen up that stronger wind, because the next progression of storms is this one, already rolling onto the west coast. It'll be moving across the state, and basically both of these will combine to move a frontal system through our area on Saturday. But it's not going to have any moisture to work with to actually pick up any kind of rain activity. So it'll be more of a wind shift line by the time we get to Saturday. So yes, we're going to be 78 tomorrow, 83, 84 on Saturday. Sunday, this is the cooling trend right here, from 84 to 70 as that front comes through right about there. So by and large, we're looking at a lot of sun and a lot of wind over the next 7 days, and very little in terms of actual precipitation. 45 will be our low tonight, 44 in Houston. Tomorrow, with abundant sunshine, we'll get up to about 78. Okay, maybe I'm being a Debbie Downer. I mean, it's going to be lovely weather through the weekend, lots of sunshine, but still we are on the dry side. So there's a big storm on the East Coast. Now we watch for the West Coast, because we start on Thursday here. There it is, big blizzard rolling through the Rockies. And watch right here as we start picking up cloud deck ahead of it. Some possible storms way up in Dallas. This would be on Saturday night. By Sunday, it all blows away, and it continues blowing away. And I don't think we're going to pick up anything out of that as far as we're concerned. So here is your day planner for tomorrow in Port Lavaca. Looking pretty good. Lots of sun, a few little clouds, and a gusty south wind kicking in at about 20 miles an hour. So you'll feel it coming from the opposite direction. In Cuero, you're getting down to 45 tonight, up to 77 tomorrow, and you're going to have sunny and warm conditions. Just consider it being breezy in the afternoon hours. And your 7-day forecast, well, we're on the dry side. 10%, 20 on Saturday with that front. I'm calling it an alert day because behind the front, we may have more red flag warnings. Okay, so just want you to know, when the winds are that strong, we get problems. So that's your 7-day forecast, reminding everybody we do have a QR code. Love for you to scan that. Put Crossroads a Day on your phone. And here's Shawna.
All right, still to come, Southwest Airlines is making changes. Find out how upcoming base closures will impact hundreds of flight attendants. U.S. stocks rose today after the Trump administration announced it's granting a 1-month exemption for tariffs on Canada and Mexico that affect automakers. Here are the closing numbers. The Dow gained 486 points, while the S&P 500 rose 65 points. Meanwhile, the NASDAQ gained 268 points. And oil is down $1.87 to $66.36 per barrel. Southwest Airlines plans to close flight attendant bases in Austin and Fort Lauderdale. The satellite bases at Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport and Austin Bergstrom International Airport are only for flight attendants, not pilots, and they're smaller than Southwest's main bases. The closures are effective July 1st. The nearly 300 flight attendants impacted by the closure will be transferred to the main bases. The move comes amid cost cutting at Southwest. The airline said in February it would cut 15% of its corporate staff. That's nearly 1,800 people. Many job seekers are having a tough time finding a place to pick up a paycheck. Private sector hiring collapsed last month, according to payroll giant ADP. The findings show an increase of roughly 77,000 jobs in February. That's down from the previous month and about half the amount expected by many economists. Officials at ADP say a drop in consumer spending and uncertainty about national politics played a factor, causing many companies to ease up on bringing in new staffers. Areas seeing a lot of recent job losses include trade, transportation, and utilities, as well as education and health services. Still to come, a runaway cow causes chaos in Houston. But wait until you see how one man's attempt to stop the cow took an unexpected turn.
Coming up tonight, the storm sweeping into the east at this hour. D.C. right up through New York, turning deadly. Whiteout conditions, highway pileups. You'll see it. Also, a 7-year-old boy kidnapped, found alive 7 years later in the U.S. And the urgent effort, 3 skiers presumed dead tonight. We're next.
Houston, we have a problem. This was the scene Tuesday where a rogue cow was spotted running down a street. Tuesday also happened to be the first day of the Houston rodeo, and police say that street leads away from the rodeo. But as you can see, a man chasing the bovine gets close enough to reach the lead rope. However, he then trips on the traffic cone and falls to the ground. Officials with the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo say the cow was quickly corralled. Hopefully that guy is okay. He was brave to try to jump in there and,
and he
stop
fell
it.
and he fell on asphalt, so
Yes.
that was no fun. Where are the cowboys when you need them? You know, I mean,
Right?
come on, they're all at the rodeo. That's right.
The cow doesn't want to be there, though.
Doesn't want to go. Well, the clouds were in that picture because that was yesterday. Now we're looking at sunny skies pretty much everywhere. If you're going to Houston to the livestock show, well, you've got lots of sunshine. And for us, all the way through the weekend, we're going to be on the dry side. Now, temperatures tomorrow, upper 70s, and getting to around 80 degrees on Friday and Saturday. Your only chance for a sprinkle or two may be early on Saturday with that frontal passage, but it'll be another windy situation behind it. That's why we have an alert day. So there's possible fire dangers again Saturday night and Sunday after that system passes through.
All right. Big difference in nighttime temperatures there, too.
Clear and cold.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for being here. We'll see you back in just 30 minutes after World News with David Muir.